What if gratitude were not a polite response you give after something good happens, but a living current you can choose to generate? A vibrational key that moves through the locks of your life and opens doors that previously seemed stuck. Imagine standing at a door that has been jammed for years. You push, you tug, nothing. Then you place your palm over the wood, breathe, and hum. The grain itself seems to remember how to part. That hum is the energy of gratitude. It is not merely polite, it is operative. It changes the arrangement of the hinges, the alignment of the frame, the relationship between the door and the threshold. In the language we will use here, frequency simply means the quality of the inner signal you are broadcasting into the world, a tone shaped by feeling, sustained by embodiment, and readable by the field of potential in which all possibilities are suspended. This is not poetry alone, it is a model for practical living. In what follows, I will trace how gratitude functions as that frequency, what shifts when it is present, and how you can begin to learn to hum it intentionally. There will be short practices, a few illustrative stories, reasons to expect subtle and not so subtle effects, and a series of invitations to explore this capacity inside of you. If this resonates, leave a single word in the comments that captures how gratitude feels to you. One word, one note, a single frequency shared. At the most basic level, gratitude as a frequency is different from gratitude as a reaction. Gratitude as reaction is your polite response to a gift. You feel thanks after the event, and often that gratitude is genuine and lovely. Gratitude as frequency asks you to adopt the thankful stance first. You become the vibrational signature of thankfulness before the evidence arrives. Think of it as tuning your instrument to the pitch you want to play. The instrument will not summon the weather to change, nor will it force another person to act against their will. Yet when you hold that pitch, you alter the field in which choices are made. Doors aligned to that pitch are more likely to open. To make the idea less abstract, imagine a radio. The universe is a vast station with innumerable channels. Your inner state is the dial. When your heart, mind, and posture tune to a clear frequency, the receiver pulls in a set of harmonics and information that were previously drowned in static. Gratitude is not merely a channel, it is a clarifying filter, a magnet that reduces noise, that sharpens the band into which your attention settles. It is not magic in the sense of supernatural coercion, it is realignment. The notes you send out attract compatible notes back. This model draws on metaphors and some scientific observations that point to a plausible mechanism. Emotions are not just ephemeral moods, they have measurable correlates. Feeling an emotion changes your breathing, your heart rhythm, the pattern of electrical activity in your brain, and the neurochemistry that shapes perception. The heart, in particular, creates a measurable electromagnetic field that extends beyond the physical body. Research in the field of psychophysiology and the work popularized by heart math, among others, suggests that when the heart enters a coherent rhythm, an ordered, sine wave-like pattern rather than jagged chaos, people report greater clarity, calmer physiology, and shifts in decision-making. To frame this carefully, research suggests correlations and mechanisms that are consistent with the idea that coherent emotional states influence both internal regulation and interpersonal synchrony. It does not decree destiny, it offers a workable map. When we speak of emotions as magnetic and thoughts as electrical, we are using an evocative metaphor to describe two complementary modes of signaling within you. Thoughts arise in patterns of neural firing. They are fast, discrete, often linear. Emotions are slower, organizing fields that shape those thoughts into a story and a felt orientation. A thought may say, "I need this job," but the feeling underneath may be scarcity, fear, relief, or quiet anticipation. If thought is the spark, feeling is the magnetic field that draws the spark into a specific shape.
For manifestation, the organized arrival of possibility into form, these two need to be aligned. If your mind says yes, but your heart is filled with clenched fear, the signal the field receives is contradictory. It is like playing two different tunes on the same instrument. Coherence is the state in which thought and feeling resonate in the same key. How then does gratitude shift coherence? Gratitude tends to widen the aperture of perception. It dilates attention away from contraction and toward recognition. Physiologically, this can mean a softer breath, a steadier heart rhythm, a more open posture. Psychologically, it changes the associative network your brain accesses, making improbable connections visible. Energetically, in the metaphor of field dynamics, gratitude raises the amplitude of a particular harmonic, a frequency that signals receptivity, generosity, and a readiness to acknowledge the presence of value. When you hold that frequency deliberately, you are both transmitter and receiver. You are broadcasting a clear instruction without forcing specific outcomes. It is here that we cross into the territory of resonance and the responsive field. Consider a tuning fork. Strike a tuning fork and hold it near a second fork tuned to the same note. The second will begin to vibrate without being struck. The field in which both forks exist transmits the tone. In human terms, a coherent heart state broadcasts a signal that organizes surrounding possibilities toward compatibilities.
The quantum field language used by many modern metaphysical traditions, including the channeled teachings associated with Seth, frames reality as a web of probabilities. Certain probabilities are more likely when an aligned, coherent input is sustained. Holding gratitude before evidence is the practice of bringing the input first, thus increasing the probability of experiences that harmonize with that input. This is not to suggest that the field is a mindless conformist to your every wish. It is more accurate to describe the field as responsive to patterns rather than commands. Patterns that are sustained, clear, and embodied will be read and matched. The language of collapsing probabilities is a way of saying that when you choose a stable, coherent frequency, you tip the scales among many possible outcomes toward those that match your tone. That tipping does not override consent or other people's trajectories. Rather, it creates a corridor in which aligned events and opportunities find easier passage. You might ask, can I actually feel this? How do I begin? Begin with the small, simple practices that teach your nervous system new rhythms. The fastest, most portable practice is the micro reset. A 30 to 90 second sequence you can use anytime you notice contraction. Notice, pause, breathe, shift attention to the heart. Recall something small you can be grateful for, a warm cup, a voice, a sign of life, and let that memory expand in the chest. Hold the feeling briefly. Notice how the breath and posture adjust. Release and move on. This tiny pattern, repeated frequently, trains the body to anchor gratitude before evidence, and to make coherence accessible on demand. Here is a clear script you can follow until it becomes your own language. Notice the tightness or tension in your body. Say to yourself, I notice this. Take a slow, intentional breath in. Place attention just behind the breastbone where the heartbeat is felt, or wherever you sense center. Exhale gently. With the next inhalation, call to mind one modest thing you appreciate, perhaps the steadiness of your feet on the floor, the green of a plant at your window, the kindness of a stranger. Let the feeling of appreciation gather. Keep the breath soft. Hold it for 1 or 2 cycles, not forcing, simply allowing the warmth to spread. Imagine that warmth as a tone with a pitch.
Hum it internally. Finish with a soft exhale and a note of curiosity about what shifts. If you practice that sequence 3 or 4 times a day, you will begin to tilt your baseline toward coherence. It is small work that rearranges thresholds over time. A complementary practice is the morning gratitude first ritual. This practice takes 3 to 5 minutes and serves as an energetic setting of the day. Upon waking, before scrolling or diving into task lists, sit upright and bring attention to the body. Greet the breath, feel it move, place a hand over the chest.
Think of 3 things you are grateful for. 1 connected to your body, 1 connected to your circumstances, and 1 connected to something outside your control. Name each silently and feel the associated appreciation. Let the breath lengthen by a count or 2 as the feeling grows. Visualize the day as a corridor with doors along its length. See yourself moving through the corridor carrying the light of appreciation at your heart. The doors you approach will slightly loosen, hinges greased by your frequency. This is not fanciful charm, it is a mechanism of attention. When you begin the day broadcasting a coherent tone, your cognitive filter starts collecting evidence that fits that tone, and your choices tend to align accordingly. Between these micro and morning practices, add journaling prompts that deepen the habit. Use a simple format. Today I am grateful for. Today I will carry this feeling into. Small action I can take that aligns with this feeling. Journaling acts as a narrative amplifier. Writing gratitude anchors it in language and intention. For those who like structure, set a timer for 5 minutes and write without judgment. For those who resist pen and paper, speak the prompts into a voice memo. The vehicle matters less than the repeated, embodied attention. It may be helpful to offer a few brief, anonymized vignettes to illustrate how small shifts seed larger patterns. Consider a person named Ava who had been circling the same stalled project for months. Her default state in meetings and emails was a tight, efficient diligence that hid a low hum of worry. Ava began applying the micro reset habit before composing any communication. A quick pause, a breath into the heart, a recollection of one small gratitude. Over several weeks, she noticed her tone shift in meetings, her language softened, opportunities that had been unavailable when her voice carried fear began to appear. A collaborator suggested a small pivot that solved the bottleneck, not because gratitude coerced the collaborator, but because gratitude altered Ava's expression, drawing a different response from the field of interaction around her. Or imagine a person we will call Marcus, who had been grieving a loss and found gratitude impossible in the grand sense. He began instead to practice gratitude for the act of remembering, the images and laughter that remained accessible. By repeatedly choosing the gratitude for memory, his nervous system unflattened just enough to see options he had missed when submerged in grief. An invitation to a community workshop, a handwritten letter from a friend, a small volunteer opportunity that rekindled a sense of purpose. The gratitude did not erase loss, it shaped the field long enough to allow new doors to be seen. These stories are not proof of universal effect. They are invitations to notice possibility and to test practices in your own life. The patterns are small at first, but cumulative. The field listens to sustained signals more than to one-off outbursts. It is also important to name common resistances. One frequent objection is, "I cannot be grateful when things are bad." This is honest and real. Gratitude is not a salt slapped over pain to cover it. To push through or suppress suffering in service of vibrational purity is not resilience, it is avoidance. A healthier approach is radical acceptance coupled with selective attention. You accept the reality of hardship, and then you deliberately shift attention to any small, non-contradictory element of value. That element need not negate the pain, it simply trains the system to find roots in the soil that remains alive. If you are in acute crisis, financial collapse, illness, or deep relational rupture, gratitude might begin with the ability to breathe, the presence of a cup that holds water, the fact of a momentary smile. There is no hierarchy of gratitude that invalidates sorrow. Rather, gratitude can coexist with grief, and when cultivated skillfully, it can open channels for practical support, clarity, and incremental relief. Skepticism is another reasonable stance. Perhaps you have tried grateful journaling, platitudes, or affirmations and felt no change. The difference often lies in whether gratitude is performed as a checklist item or embodied as a frequency. Saying the words, "I am grateful," without the felt tone will not tune the field. The practices offered here are designed to be somatic as well as cognitive. Breath, posture, heart focus, and imagination work together to create a living signal. There are also misunderstandings about what manifestation means. Manifestation is not a guarantee that every desire will be met. It is the alignment of your internal field with certain possible outcomes, which increases the probability that those outcomes will come into your experience. Think of it like gardening. Planting seed and watering does not guarantee a harvest in a single season, but planting in prepared soil vastly improves the chances that a seed will grow. Gratitude prepares soil by changing root chemistry, microbial life, and the microclimate of attention. Let us now practice together in 2 accessible variations so that you can begin to feel the difference before we move into longer forms. The first is the 1-minute coherence anchor. Sit or stand comfortably. Breathe in for 4 counts, out for 6 to slow the rhythm. Place your attention in the chest. Recall a modest appreciation, not an abstract concept like life, but something concrete. The texture of your favorite sweater, the smell of rain last night, a reliable streetlight that guides your way home. Allow a tiny warmth. Hold it for 3 breaths. Release into the body and note any subtle change in posture or ease. That 1 minute can be done between tasks, before conversations, or before sleep. The second practice is the 3-minute door on lock visualization for the morning. After your micro reset, imagine a corridor of doors representing the day ahead. Approach the first door with the tone you have cultivated. Place your palm on its surface. Let gratitude swell for your sense of curiosity, for the capacity to move, for the fact of coffee, whatever is true for you. Imagine the lock responding not to force, but to pitch. The door opens with a slight creak. Walk through and notice a small helpful detail, a kind smile from a colleague, an email with an unexpected resource. This practice teaches the mind to look for opening signs and trains your attention to recognize synchronicity as it occurs. If you begin to do these small practices regularly, you will collect 2 types of evidence, internal and external. Internal evidence is felt: steadier breath, calmer decision-making, less reactive speech. External evidence may appear as opportunities, helpful meetings, or shifts in others' behavior. But remember, external signs are not guaranteed and are not the only measure of success. The first fruits are always felt changes, a sense of alignment, a reduction of frantic searching, a clearer perception of next steps. Now, to take the model a level deeper, we will outline the physiology in greater detail, not to overclaim, but to offer an explanatory scaffold that makes the practices less mysterious.
The heart generates both electrical and magnetic fields. Electrocardiography and magnetocardiography are ways scientists observe these signals at the body level. These fields vary with emotional state. When you are anxious, heart rhythms often show irregular, incoherent patterns. When you are calm and engaged, the rhythms become smoother and more ordered. Research suggests that coherent heart rhythms correspond with improved cognitive performance, better emotional regulation, and increased social connectivity. From the vantage of the channeled teachings we use as a metaphysical frame, the coherent heart is a transmitter of a clear signal into the shared field of potential. Neuroscience complements this picture. Imagined futures and felt emotions activate similar neural circuits. When you vividly imagine a desired scene while genuinely feeling the emotion associated with its fulfillment, your brain treats that simulation as meaningful information, altering neural wiring in ways that make the imagined behavior more likely to occur. This is why rehearsal works in sports and why mental practice has measurable effects. From our perspective, feeling gratitude in advance leverages this rehearsal mechanism. You are rehearsing not only the action, but the embodiment of that action. The brain adjusts, the body learns a new posture, and your behavior begins to reflect the rehearsal. There is also interpersonal resonance. When you cultivate coherent states, your physiology becomes stabilizing in social contexts. Others often mirror that calm and clarity unconsciously.
This is why leadership that is heart-centered is not a soft skill but an energetic organizer. Influencing others does not mean controlling them, it means cultivating a field that invites cooperative responses. All of these threads, heart-field dynamics, neural rehearsal, interpersonal resonance, converge in a practical mechanism. Alignment increases probability. The field is more likely to meet a coherent signal with compatible forms. The key practice is therefore not endless imagining, but an embodied alignment, thought, feeling, and posture in service of a stable, grateful tone. There is an art to choosing your gratitude intentionally. When someone is desperate for a particular outcome, a common misstep is to force gratitude for that outcome specifically before inner resistance is addressed. Instead, begin with gratitude for what is already present and permissible. If you are seeking employment, be grateful for your capacity to learn, for the people who help you, for the small tasks you completed yesterday. If you are seeking reconciliation, be grateful for your capacity to listen, for small gestures that still exist, for the moments when communication was kind. These are safe entry points that do not require fabrication or denial. From there, expand the aperture gradually. Before moving deeper into sustained meditative practices, there is a subtle but crucial distinction to make about intention and surrender. Gratitude as frequency does not look like obstinate pushing. The frequency of gratitude carries an openness. It is an invited request rather than a demand. You set an intention with clarity and then let the field respond, noticing the avenues that appear. Surrender here is not defeat, it is a refined trust in the responsiveness of reality to sustained coherence. There is freedom in that posture. You are not controlling outcomes rigidly, but you are offering a consistent tone for the field to answer. By now, you may be feeling a shift simply by reading and imagining. That is common. The combination of language, metaphor, and embodied instruction can begin to alter your rhythm. If it has not, that is equally okay. These changes often require repetition. The practices above are designed to be repeated and layered. Start small, practice often, notice changes without demanding proof. We have covered the essential claim: gratitude can function as a frequency that unlocks doors. We have examined the metaphors that make this claim visceral. We have sketched supportive physiological and neuroscientific correlates with appropriate caveats. And we have given several short, practical methods to begin tuning your instrument. The terrain ahead deepens these elements. There are more elaborate meditations, movement-based embodiments, journaling sequences, and a structured multi-week plan that turns sporadic practice into an evolving baseline.
There are also common pitfalls we will address with practical troubleshooting: what to do when resistance returns, how to recalibrate after setbacks, and how to translate small energetic shifts into sustained life changes. For now, rest with what you have learned and try the simplest practice 3 times in the next 24 hours: the micro reset, the 1-minute anchor, and the morning gratitude first ritual. Notice what changes in tone, not outcome. In the next segment, you will be guided into more extended practices that build on these foundations, practices that will help you not only to generate the frequency of gratitude, but to sustain it through challenge, to carry it into relationships, and to begin to recognize the subtle openings that follow. As you move forward, keep returning to the image of the hum at the door, soft, persistent, true to your chest. That hum is yours to learn, and the doors will respond in ways that are apt for your life. That hum is yours to learn, and the doors will respond in ways that are apt for your life. Let us now move from noticing to practice, from hypothesis to habit, and from occasional moments of ease to a steady, embodied way of being that carries the tone of gratitude through ordinary afternoons, difficult nights, and decisive crossroads. Begin by widening the palette of practices. Not every person will connect to the same gateway. Some find breath alone enough. Others need movement, imagery, or writing to anchor the tone. Think of these practices as different instruments in an orchestra, each able to play the pitch of gratitude with slightly different timbre. Try them all and keep the ones that resonate. The variety is not a distraction, it is a means of engraving a new groove in body and mind. One accessible pathway is walking gratitude. Walk at a comfortable pace, not for exercise but as a ceremonial, unhurried movement. Allow each step to be accompanied by a small focus. With each footfall, name silently one thing you appreciate in the moment. Not grand abstractions, but particulars: the texture of the pavement, the way light falls through a tree, a small kindness observed. Let the breath move in time with the steps, perhaps inhaling for 2 steps, exhaling for 3. As the pattern settles, notice how attention widens yet stays rooted. Walking can hold gratitude in motion. It trains your limbic system to carry appreciation through the body, rather than confining it to thought. Another useful approach blends breath, posture, and voice, the humming tone. Sit upright, relax the shoulders, and take a slow breath into the chest. As you exhale, hum gently, feeling vibration in the sternum and throat. Hum a single pitch for 3 or 4 cycles, then rest. This vibratory practice creates a felt resonance in the chest that often speeds up the shift from conceptual gratitude to embodied frequency.
The hum need not be loud. It is internal work, an attunement that tells the body and surrounding field, this tone is here. Do this for 5 minutes in the morning or whenever you need to clear static. For those who prefer writing, the amplification of gratitude through narrative is potent. But instead of a list of platitudes, try the detail harvest. Set a timer for 7 minutes. Write a sentence about one small, concrete scene you admired that day. Describe the scene in sensory detail: the sound, the light, the fabric, the scent, and then write one line about why this particular scene touched you. The specificity trains the hippocampus, the memory area, to tag experiences with emotional color. Over time, the brain begins to look for these scenes because it has learned to recognize their value. Movement practices can also be brief and profound. Stand with feet hip-width apart and inhale, raising the arms slowly as if lifting a banner of gratitude. Exhale, lower the arms and feel the shoulder blades draw together slightly in a closing gesture that consolidates the feeling into the chest. Repeat 6 to 8 times, synchronizing the imagery. On the inhale, imagine drawing in light. On the exhale, imagine condensing that light into a warm center at the heart. This cyclical opening and centering trains the fascia and musculature to embody receptivity and consolidation in alternation. The body remembers what the mind rehearses. Now we will practice more deeply, a guided coherence meditation designed for a longer period of 10 to 20 minutes. This script allows you to anchor the feeling of gratitude, expand it outward, and seal it as a coherent field you can return to. You may use it seated or lying down. The guidance is offered in language you can follow silently or aloud. Close your eyes and begin by noticing the breath as it is, no attempt to change it. Feel air enter and leave, the small lift and fall of the chest, the gentle motion at the base of the lungs. Let your shoulders soften. Allow your jaw to unclench. With each exhalation, imagine a subtle unclasping, a loosening of grip on busyness. Allow a few breaths to pass, each one quieter than the last. Now bring attention to the center of the chest. Imagine, as a possibility, a small, bright point there, a luminous node that carries the quality of appreciation. It is not necessary to fabricate an emotion you do not have. Instead, invite the memory of a modest thing, someone's laugh, the warmth of a cup in your hands, a plant's green leaf catching light, and let that memory rest at the node. Allow the memory to wash through the chest as a warmth, small as needed. Breathe into that warmth and let it expand like a ripple. As the warmth spreads, notice any accompanying sensations elsewhere in the body. Perhaps the throat loosens, the belly softens, the face goes slack. Let these changes be acknowledged. If a thought arises, judgment, distraction, doubt, notice it kindly and return to the chest point. Thoughts are like birds passing through the sky. They do not require negotiation. After a few minutes of holding this heart-centered warmth, imagine it as a frequency, like a soft bell tone that resonates outward in concentric circles. See each circle as a layer of influence, first your immediate aura, then your room, then your neighborhood, then a larger field. You are not choosing which outcomes will appear. You are clearly transmitting a tone that the field may respond to. Sit with that transmission for several breaths, allowing the tone to steady. Now, using the tone as a base, visualize one door that matters to you. It could be a tangible opportunity, a conversation, a job, a healed pattern, or a softer door such as deeper empathy with a loved one. Do not try to force specific details. Allow the door to appear with whatever color and texture it has. Approach the door with the felt gratitude at the heart. Place your palm or your attention on the door. Feel the hum move through the palm, through the handle, through the frame. Notice any sensation of loosening, any subtle shift in expectation. Hear, perhaps, the faint sound of hinges unbinding. If nothing obvious happens, notice that too. Trust the process rather than the timing. As you continue to hold gratitude and attention on the door, imagine stepping through into a small scene that embodies the essence of what that open door brings. You may only see a detail, a face, a phrase, a small light on a table. Allow that detail to be enough.
Let the scene be colored by appreciation. Stay there for a few breaths, absorbing its tone. Then, with a soft inhale, bring your awareness back to the chest node. Breathe the scene into that center, as if collecting its warmth into a seed. When you are ready, imagine that seed nested at the heart, sealed with quiet trust. Allow any narrative about how or when the door will open to fall away. Replace it with the steady hum you cultivated. Rest in the hum for a few more breaths, letting the body and mind anchor to that frequency. When you sense completion, bring gentle movement back to the fingers and toes and open the eyes. This practice is a rehearsal of embodied attention. Repeating it regularly trains your nervous system to sustain coherent heart rhythms while holding intention, not forcing but clarifying. For those with less time, a shorter version of this meditation is equally useful. Sit for 3 to 5 minutes, place attention on the heart, recall the smallest particular appreciation, extend one breath outward as if sending that warmth toward a door, and close. Frequent short practices are preferable to rare long ones. Now, let us construct a progressive plan that moves from sporadic practice to integrated habit. Below is a 30-day sequence designed to embed gratitude as a frequency in your daily baseline. Each day includes a primary practice and a journaling cue.
The plan is flexible. If 30 days feels long, adapt it to 21 by collapsing adjacent days. The aim is progressive deepening rather than rigid completion. Day 1. Begin with the micro reset. Notice tension, take 3 slow breaths into the heart, recall one modest appreciation, and note the change. Journal. One small thing I noticed today that I appreciated was. Day 2. Practice the 1-minute anchor 3 times during the day. Journal. How did my breathing change after the anchor? Day 3. Walk for 10 minutes, matching each step to a tiny appreciation. Journal. What small details stood out during my walk? Day 4. Do the humming tone practice for 5 minutes. Journal. Where did I feel vibration in my body? Day 5. Morning gratitude first ritual for 3 minutes. Set an intention for the day. Journal. What tone did I choose for today? Day 6. Use the door visualization for 3 minutes before sleep. Journal. What image came when I touched the door? Day 7. Reflective day. Review the week and write 3 shifts you noticed, however small. Journal. This week, gratitude felt like. Day 8. Add a movement sequence. Raise arms on the inhale, lower on the exhale for 8 cycles. Journal. How did the movement affect my posture? Day 9. Practice the deep guided meditation 10 to 15 minutes. Journal. What scene did I find beyond the door? Day 10. Perform a detail harvest writing session for 7 minutes. Journal. What sensory detail surprised me? Day 11. Walk gratitude, extending the practice to noticing others' small gestures. Journal. What kindness did I observe and how did it affect me? Day 12. Do the humming followed by 3 minutes of silent heart focus. Journal. Was there a difference between active humming and silent holding? Day 13. Make point reflection. Notice patterns and any resistances. Journal. Where did I meet resistance and how did I respond? Day 14. Practice gratitude in conversation. Before a call or meeting, do a 1-minute anchor. Journal. How did my tone alter the interaction? Day 15. Try a compassionate gratitude. Find something you appreciate about yourself. Journal. What did I find to be grateful for within me? Day 16. Combine journaling with imagery. Write a short paragraph describing the day as a corridor of doors. Journal. Which door did I open today, even if small?
Day 17, deep meditation focusing on breath and heart coherence for 15 minutes. Journal, how steady was the rhythm of my chest? Day 18, practice gratitude during a routine chore, dishwashing, commuting. Journal, what changed in the chore when I carried gratitude? Day 19, humming followed by 5 minutes of imaginative rehearsal of desired behavior. Journal, what behavior felt easier when rehearsed? Day 20, social field experiment. Offer an unsolicited, genuine appreciation to someone and simply observe the ripple. Journal, what happened after I expressed appreciation?
Day 21. Review and consolidate. Write a letter to yourself about what you have learned. Journal. What would I like to remind myself in 3 months? Day 22. Practice a longer walking meditation, 20 to 30 minutes, with deep attention to sensory detail. Journal. How did prolonged attention affect my inner field? Day 23. Movement-focused gratitude with stretching and breath. Journal. Which movement unlocked the most ease? Day 24. Focus on gratitude for challenge. Identify a difficulty and find one thing about it you can appreciate for its teaching or clarity. Journal. What small gratitude exists in my difficulty? Day 25. Deep guided meditation for 20 minutes with the door visualization and scene rehearsal. Journal. How did the scene differ from earlier meditations? Day 26. Integrate gratitude into planning. Before making a to-do list, do a 3-minute heart focus and notice how priorities shift. Journal. How did the list change after the practice? Day 27. Practice gratitude at the table. Before eating, hold appreciation for one ingredient and note flavors. Journal. How mindful did the meal feel? Day 28. Pair gratitude with service. Do a small helpful act without announcing it. Journal. What did giving quietly do to my inner tone? Day 29. Review the month. Identify 3 practices you will continue. Journal. Which practices felt sustainable? Day 30. Synthesis. Perform your favorite short practice, the long practice, and write a consolidated plan for continuing. Journal. How will I carry this forward? This sequence scaffolds attention and skill. The journaling prompts are not an assignment in virtue, they are a method of feedback. Write honestly. The pages need not be polished, they are instruments of noticing. Even with structure, resistance is inevitable at times. You may find certain days when gratitude feels hollow, when the breath is tight, and the voice inside insists on cynicism. This is not failure, it is information. The skill is to respond to resistance with curiosity rather than with shame. If gratitude feels inaccessible, lower the bar. Instead of aiming for appreciation, aim for acknowledgement. Acknowledge the fracture, the tiredness, the anger. Then, in the same breath, look for the smallest, non-contradictory thing to hold with your other hand. A light in the window, a phone call you can make, a cool drink of water. The physicality of naming both the pain and one small token of good creates a bridge between contraction and expansion. Skepticism deserves a careful hearing as well. If you have tried similar practices with no result, consider technique and frequency. Gratitude that is declamatory, words without feeling, has little effect. Likewise, if practice is intermittent, neural pathways will not change. Commit to a minimum repeat frequency. 5 minutes daily for 30 days will create measurable shifts in patterning for most people. If motivation falters, tie practices to existing routines. Do your 1-minute anchor upon brushing teeth or a humming tone after locking the front door. Habit stacks multiply. A common worry concerns inauthenticity. Am I faking it? A partial answer is sincere practice does not demand you conjure emotions you do not have. It asks you to train the nervous system with accurate small-scale sensations that gradually broaden the range of your felt experience. Initially, the gratitude may be thin. That is acceptable. Over time, the nervous system learns to hold thicker tones. Attachment to outcomes is another subtle trap. If your practice becomes merely a tool to get a particular door to open, you risk converting gratitude into a manipulative instrument of will. Part of the practice is learning to hold intention without desperate grip, to tend the flame without strangling it. Notice when practice collapses into strategy and gently widen it back into open-hearted rehearsal. Relationships present nuanced opportunities and cautions. Gratitude can change the tenor of interaction, but it does not absolve boundary setting. If you find yourself using gratitude to smooth over disrespect or as a balm to avoid confrontation, reassess. Gratitude that helps you see a partner's effort is not the same as gratitude that excuses harmful behavior. Practice combined with discernment leads to generative outcomes. Practice plus avoidance leads to suffering. Now consider several further anonymized vignettes that illustrate different ways the frequency of gratitude can alter lived experience. The first is Leela, a community organizer who felt burdened by endless logistics and dwindling energy. She began each planning meeting with a 1-minute heart focus, silently naming one small victory from the last week. Over months, the meetings shifted from frantic problem lists to concise recognition of what was working. Volunteers felt seen, energy returned. Funding conversations became calmer and more strategic. Leela did not coerce outcomes, but she observed that those around her mirrored the steadier tone, and practical openings arose as a consequence. Then there is Jonah, an engineer who had been haunted by perfectionism. He used gratitude journaling not to praise achievement, but to notice his body's signals: warmth in the hands after focused work, the satisfaction of a problem solved, the simple pleasure of coffee. This embodied noticing loosened the pressure that perfectionism had placed on him. He missed fewer deadlines, and collaborative interactions improved because his language softened. Opportunities followed not by magic, but because the field of social interaction around him responded to a clearer, less anxious presence. A third vignette concerns Mara, who had experienced a chronic, non-diagnosed pain that made mornings heavy. She did not expect relief from gratitude practices, and she did not claim miraculous healing. Instead, she found that a short morning anchor reduced the catastrophizing that amplified pain perception. She was not cured, but daily function improved enough to allow participation in physical therapy and social contact, both of which supported recovery. The frequency of gratitude did not replace care, it made the care more accessible. These narratives emphasize variability. The frequency of gratitude tends to reorient perception and physiology in ways that create practical space. It is not a cure-all, it is a clarifying tone. Now we approach the culminating practice, the long-form becoming ritual that fosters sustained embodiment. This practice is intentionally expansive and designed to be done in a comfortable place where you will not be interrupted for 20 to 30 minutes. It will weave breath, image, repetition, and a gentle declarative tone so that the repeated phrases become anchors rather than commands. Settle into a comfortable posture. Begin with simple, even breaths. Feel the weight of your body connected to the ground. Spend the first 5 minutes simply watching the breath and allowing the muscle tone to ease. If restlessness arises, observe it as a visiting sensation and return to the breath. After the body has found a baseline, place your attention at the heart and bring to mind a single modest appreciation, tiny enough to be honest, vivid enough to feel. Allow that appreciation to take shape as a warmth, then as a tone. Name the tone softly to yourself. Soft, steady, open. Repeat it 3 times, feeling how each repetition changes the subtle quality of the chest. Now speak aloud, or in the bedrock of your mind, a phrase that will be your anchor for this practice. I become the vibration of gratitude. Say it once and let the words settle. Do not interrogate their truth. Instead, notice the sensation that accompanies them. Allow the phrase to be repeated in cycles. Inhale with I become. Exhale with the vibration of gratitude. Continue this breath phrase cycle for 5 minutes. Let the cadence carry you. If mental chatter interferes, let it be background noise and return to the rhythm. As the phrase settles, expand the practice outward. Imagine a circle around you, the radius of which is determined by your breath. With each cycle, let the circle grow. Your room, your street, your city, your broader field. In each expansion, declare the phrase once more, allowing the tone to mark the perimeter. You are not claiming effect, you are offering a consistent, coherent vibration into an ever larger context. After several cycles, bring to mind 3 qualities you want to embody in service of this gratitude frequency: clarity, openness, and patience. These are not rules, they are skills to practice. See each quality as a small beam of light that supports the hum. For each quality, spend 1 minute breathing and articulating a micro-intention. Clarity, I notice without clinging. Openness, I receive without demand. I allow the field time to respond. Repeat each micro-intention with its breath until it feels settled. Now return to the door image. This time, approach not 1 but 3 doors, representing 3 different domains of life, perhaps 1 practical, work, 1 relational, and 1 inner, self-regard or healing. Place your attention on each door, hum your tone, and allow a small scene to come into view. Spend 2 or 3 breaths in each scene. Notice what is present: colors, sounds, gestures. Do not edit. If one scene eludes you, be gentle, move to the next. After visiting all 3 doors, gather the warmth back into the center of the chest and form a single, steady hum. At this point, you may choose a mantra-like declaration that is invitational. I am willing to be the frequency that invites opening. Repeat this line 3 times with full breath. Feel whether the pitch shifts. Sometimes gratitude sits higher in the chest, sometimes lower. Let it find its natural key. Conclude the ritual by placing both hands over the heart and whispering, aloud or inwardly, an offering, not a demand, but an assent. May this frequency be offered. May it be received. May it find passage where passage is healthy. Rest for a few breaths, then slowly reintegrate movement into the fingers and toes, open the eyes, and carry the warmth into the day. This becoming practice is less a claim of identity than a rehearsal of posture. Repeating it frequently can anchor the tone more deeply in the autonomic nervous system. Over time, this anchored tone is what people mean when they say someone shows up different. Their body, breath, and social field are aligned in a coherent way. Before closing, address a few frequently asked questions that often arise as people engage with these methods. First, how long until I notice change? Responses vary. Many notice internal shifts in breathing, patience, or reactivity within days of consistent practice. External changes often follow more slowly and in ways that are difficult to predict. The key is to value internal evidence as primary: calmer breath,
clearer thinking, steadier speech, because these are the reliable indicators that your fieldwork is proceeding. Second, what if I relapse into old patterns? Expect it. The nervous system has deep grooves built by years of learning. Relapse is not a failure, it is a signal to return to practice with curiosity about what triggered the shift. Use setbacks as information rather than indictment. Third, is this manipulation of others? Gratitude as frequency is an inner discipline. When it changes how you present yourself, it can influence others, but it does not create ethical license to manipulate. Use the practice to refine your presence and to inform wise action, not to coerce. Fourth, am I denying my pain? No. Authentic practice begins with acknowledgement. Gratitude that skips over pain is avoidant. Gratitude that coexists with suffering is generative.
Allow both to be present. Fifth, can children learn this? Yes, with age-appropriate adaptations, short micro resets, playful walking gratitude, story-based visualizations. The language is simpler, the time frame shorter, and the practice more sensory. As we move toward integration, remember that the core instruction is elegantly simple. Adopt the frequency, sustain it, and let the field respond. Much of the work is invisible and gentle. It is the shifting of inner architecture rather than the pulling of external levers. In closing, return your attention to the image of the hum at the door. Think of the day ahead as a hallway with varied shapes and thresholds. You will not find a single master key that opens everything at once. The power lies in learning to hold a tone that eases hinges, oils frames, and clarifies where effort will matter. Gratitude is not a trick, it is an energetic posture that organizes attention, physiology, and choice. You can practice it in tiny increments, between emails, before a meal, as you step into a conversation, and you can build it into longer rites that reshape baseline inclination over weeks. If you would like to take this forward in a structured way, there is a resource linked in the description, a printable 30-day practice guide with the meditations recorded for you, plus a condensed 7-day starter sequence and the long-form guided Becoming meditation read aloud. Use what helps. Remember that the purpose of these tools is not to prove a theory, but to cultivate an embodied tone that increases probability for aligned experiences, and, more importantly, leaves you feeling clearer and more available. Carry the hum with care. Let it be an offering rather than a demand. Let it be an invitation rather than a strategy. As you practice, notice how your posture, breath, and speech begin to carry a different cadence. In that cadence there is power, not to force the world into compliance, but to make space where doors can be received and chosen with wisdom. May the energy of gratitude be the key you learn to shape with tenderness and courage. When you practice often enough, you may find that the field of potential responds, not because you commanded it to, but because you became a clear instrument that makes opening possible. If this teaching has resonated, consider downloading the 30-day guide in the description to continue with gentle structure and recorded meditations to accompany you.